Motion to approve the agenda as presented with one modification for executive session for personnel after our last discussion item.
So,
Thank you, Aaron. Second, Joel. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to, public communications? It's like a Christmas miracle. No. Put that on Bearcat TV. I guess I'll be in trouble for that, the reporter and farmer. Thanks. Conflicts disclosure? None. Motion to approve the minutes for our last, this is just one motion?
No, all the minutes can go together,
From all of our
previous.
previous board meetings. Thank you, Aaron. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the financial statements as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Nick. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the claims as presented.
So
Thank you, Mark. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion?
I did notice on the natural gas in this facility and the armory, we're running about 5 times the usage as previous years. I don't know why that is, or, you know, I would maybe understand it. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I was gonna say I would understand it up here just with the construction going on, but we've had this new wing on last year, so that something just seems off to me there. It's considerably more for the gas at the main building and the armory.
Oh, that is. Did not notice that this month.
And to be honest, our rates are probably 30% less than last year. This year.
Oh, yeah, that is.
And it's only in December,
Or the November read.
or excuse me, the November read at the armory, but it is October and November in this building. So don't know what that means. I thought before we get too carried, or it gets too carried away, if there's something we can do to look
Well, let's
into that.
have, let's have Northwestern come on in and look at that. I mean, remember last time?
Maybe they read them wrong, I don't
They
know.
read them wrong, and there was actually a refund that was owed to us many years ago, but
I remember when that happened.
and I'm trying to remember, now it is tracking with kind of the way our May of 2023, and May of 2025, those type of numbers.
But I would expect that coming off of winter.
Yeah.
I don't expect that going into.
And also, same thing with the armory. That doesn't make sense.
Could just
Well,
be
maybe they have a better, maybe they have a better summary or printout
Yeah.
that they can send us that.
I would just start with them, maybe ask some questions.
I mean, just briefly thinking about it, initially there wouldn't be any excessive cold that we would be heating more, or we're not cooking any more meals than we normally do. Yeah, we'll have to look into it and see what could be causing it.
Thanks for catching that, Joel.
And I'll abstain from this vote.
Okay. Any other comments about the claims? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to set the election date for June, was it 2nd?
Second.
2026. Thank you, Aaron. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to appoint a board representative LAN member.
So move.
Thank you, Joel. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Discussion? Can Larry do this again?
I would do it. I'd volunteer.
That'd be great.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we're not gonna give you time to rethink that. Thanks, Nick.
What date is that? That you would go down?
I think the LAN member just gets all the
Yeah, this isn't-
updates. This
It's not
isn't the one
a
for the
legislative
just-
or anything. Okay.
Gets
Yep.
updates and communicates with our local legislators.
I'm still on the email distro. I still get it from the time that I put it on years
And any
ago.
of you can contact them, I mean, it can be,
Okay. Motion to discuss the wrestling practice facility.
So moved.
Thank you, Mark. Second?
second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion.
I guess I'll go first. Joel, Nathan and I were over at Bristol a week ago, 10 days ago,
Yep.
and looked at the facility over there, and it's a very nice facility. She's done a fabulous job. It's set up for wrestling. I think it's just a good deal that we would utilize the facility. She has locker rooms, girls and boys locker rooms, private showers, they're all redone. It's very nice. She would let us use the facility from 3:30 to 6 every day. And there is a room where they can have a weight room to use. It's everything they ever wanted. Granted, it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes away, but it's the best 4-lane highway in the county over there. It's not that far. I just think it's an excellent facility that should be utilized.
Yeah, I'll echo everything Mark said. There's a weight room, or excuse me, a wrestling room that's fully furnished, the mats, the bleachers, it's nice. Then they have a tumbling room off to the side, and then there's 2 large classrooms to the one end of the wrestling room, and she said, whatever you want. If we ask, can we bring our weight room equipment over here and put it in there for our wrestlers to use? Absolutely. She was very good to talk to, visit with, very welcoming. You know, they would like to work with us. You know, wrestling is the Ferris's passion, and I think they've put together a really nice deal over there. And I realize it's not in Webster, but it's 10 minutes away. You know, just dealing with some high school boys basketball stuff right now. I got boys coming to my house saying, we don't want that high school gym. Why can't we go to Roslyn? You know, they want to drive the 10 miles. They don't want to be here either. This gym over here is too small. It's just too small. I agree. I think it's a wonderful thing. We did talk about price, and you know, she really didn't have anything in mind at the time, but she said, what, you know, could I get the same as what you guys were talking about doing in Webster? And we said we'd have to talk to the board first, but that seemed reasonable, and she said, I'm more than good with that.
I guess I would reiterate, another thing we gotta look at, this is gonna be next year also.
Mhm.
We will have a facility sometime in the future here, but it won't be next year. And it maybe not be the year after that either, so, and she's more than happy to work with us. This is not just a short-term solution.
You're absolutely right. This would be a long-term, or, you know, solution. Not a forever solution, but into next year.
What's that?
A lengthy short term.
It would be
Yeah.
a solution
Interim.
until we get a solution here.
Another thing that we talked with her about, and like Mark said, Nathan was there with us as well, there are rules with the High School Activities Association as far as our student athletes practicing with other coaches, or however that works. And she gave us an example of, right now, her practices are from 6 to 8. Our youth practices from 6:30 to 8. And so she made our youth back their practice up to 6 to match her schedule. She said, but knowing what we know now, she said, I would move our practices till 6:30. So Webster would have the facility to ourselves from 3:30 to 6. No questions about it. She said it would be yours. We talked about things like cut and weight and, doing different things during different times of the day on weekends and whatnot. And, without knowing the exact specific examples, all I can say is she would be very good to work with as far as if kids want to go over and, they go to the armory and shoot free throws, wrestlers want to go shoot takedowns. They want to work on the weekends and do those kinds of things. And so we just have to work with her on that. I think that it's something, Nathan couldn't be here tonight, he's got basketball and then another previous commitment, but in my opinion, we need to just make sure that he and Dr. Black and our head wrestling coach is on board with this, in my opinion, to move forward. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
So really what we're talking about is we're using the rest of the season as like a trial. Let's just see how it works and feel it out. I mean, and go from there, work out the kinks. What other, but like what other logistics do we have to be thinking? Like, we don't have to do busing or like how does all
Well,
that
there-
transportation?
There would be.
We would need to provide transportation.
The thing we gotta remember is the junior high falls into our bucket here,
Yeah.
and so we would be responsible for some transportation.
Okay.
Now, is that a real difficult thing to do? With the current numbers that they have, and I could be wrong, but I believe with a mid-bus and a Suburban, we would be expecting our coaches to drive to practice every day, which is not uncommon for co-ops. I mean, that happens quite a bit, but we could get by with the transportation with those two versus getting a big bus and having a lot
A lot
higher
more
expense.
Okay.
Plus a bus driver and everything else, or certification for bus driving.
So is it not working where it's at? I mean, why did you guys go look over there?
Well, we talked about this at the last board meeting, about exploring all of our options, and so the board asked us to go.
Basically, a lot of it was Nathan, scheduling issues.
Yeah.
Things are just, he doesn't have enough gym space. Schedule's got, they're making it work. But yeah, we discussed that at the last meeting, it was said, you
Yep.
probably weren't there. Is that, that's why
right.
you don't remember
Yeah.
that. So we just looked at this option. I didn't know this option was available before, but I mean, I think, I'm not a wrestler, but it's everything they want. I think.
Oh, I agree, yep.
So as far as price, you said what we were looking at in Webster, what were we looking at paying? Because we were gonna go to the baseball field.
$1,000 a month.
But that's off the table now, Aaron. The baseball field,
Right,
yep.
but that was the price that we were gonna pay
Yep.
for the baseball field? What do we pay for the Roslyn gym?
5,000
5,000
per year.
For the
per
year.
year.
That's what it went up to now.
Yep.
And this would be, the way I understood it, just for the months we're using it, correct?
Correct,
That's,
yep.
yeah.
So realistically, 3 months, January, February, March.
I'd be safe and say 4 months.
Okay,
Well-
April.
In a normal season, we're partway through the season, that's correct.
State's end of February for our varsity level. AAU is typically the 25th of March, something like that, but,
So 3 months.
you know.
We currently do have the gym schedule for practices, all winter sports, is complete, it's in place, and we're running it. And so that's already done. There might be a little hesitation from somebody, I'm not sure who. They might say, let's just keep doing this and see how it goes. But I think it's an excellent thing to look at as an option. We might, even within the next week or two, get into more snaggles with our schedule that we're not quite aware of.
So is the January and I'll just start with January. Is that practice schedule ironed out?
It's my understanding that it is.
Okay.
unless it's just through December.
I thought it was through December and it was still in flux to be done in January, February, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Okay.
But-
I would have to clarify.
Yep.
My conversations with Nathan was, he made it sound like we've got everything in place to get through the winter seasons, but I could have been misreading that.
I also wanna make sure we're not springing it on that team, on the team.
Right.
I feel like, I mean, I'm assuming there's
We've had
been
a lot of
some
shifts.
conversation, like, kind of testing the waters internally with the coaching staff about maybe this potential move.
And there have been quite a few shifts in the last 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, to jump into another one would be another shift, so we need to maybe just see if
Maybe-
it's something we wanna look at.
You know, maybe I'd throw this out there. I mean, if we have a nice facility 10 miles down the road, I feel we should take advantage of it. And to me, the 10 miles is no different than the kids from Wallace are already driving into town. I mean, 17-mile corner, we can do the math. The kids up on the northern edge of the Roslyn district, I mean, they're driving from Eden. How many miles is that, Mark? 20?
From Eden, 25 easily.
20, 25. You know, we do have children that are coming from Waubay. We do have a bus, don't we still have a bus that goes to Bristol in the morning to
Yes.
pick up students?
They go in the afternoon as well.
And in the afternoon. So, for me, the 10 miles is not a make or break for any of our sports, whether it be football, basketball, wrestling, track. You know, I think that is something that we can work on. And if we have good facilities, I think we should take advantage of it.
Would some of the high schoolers be allowed to drive over there, or would everybody have to ride the buses?
They can drive, I mean, that one, we've already got a policy of the boys and girls basketball players. I think when they're using Roslyn,
Yeah, they're driving.
they're all driving. I don't know of anybody that's,
Generally,
Not
as long
right.
as we offer, transportation and they choose not to take it, then we're not.
I know from experience, my kids have always been, they're carpooling up there. I've never known of a bus going to the Roslyn gym for the varsity boys or girls basketball teams. Craig, Jim, are you aware of that in the last 4 years?
They generally do take a Suburban or, they do take a school vehicle. Generally, the coaches take a
Okay.
school vehicle.
But most of the kids are getting there on their own.
So I don't know if there's any kids from on the outskirts of the district that drive to Webster, then they would have to drive to Bristol as well. I don't know, you know, that's gonna add 20 miles to their commute every day as well.
But maybe what we do is, if it's a good spot, I mean, I think we should explore it. I think it's good to have good relationships with Bristol. I think what's good for Bristol is good for Webster, what's good for Webster is good for Roslyn and Waubay, all the way around. I mean, I think as a county, we should be working together, and if we have this that's just right down the road, and the key thing is, it's more than 3 months. I like the idea that this is a test run, because if it can work for these 3 months, then it can work for next year.
Yep.
'Cause the
I guess
chance-
is Roush on board with it, or?
I don't know, Nathan couldn't be here tonight, I don't know.
Why don't we maybe table this?
I think we table it, and I would also encourage you guys to go over there and look at it. Kara's there almost every night of the week, I think every night but Friday, from 5:30 to 8, 9 o'clock at night, and she's more than happy to give tours. It doesn't take long, but I've known it's been over there. I know it's there. I didn't know how damn nice it was till I went and looked at it.
So if we were to go over there, would there be competition meets there, or is it just mainly for practice?
No, yeah, it'll just be
No.
practice.
The whole gym, she has mats, the whole gym floor, I don't know if you guys have been to Bristol, but they took the stage out, it's all mats, the whole gym floor is wrestling mats.
And they wouldn't have to roll them up every night,
No.
which, I mean, we know has been a major issue.
I mean, and that's, you know, that's something to consider when we're rolling mats, have our athletes roll these mats here. You know it takes 10, 15 minutes, beginning and ending of practice. They're not losing any instruction time.
No, they beat a Bristol by the time they rolled them. I guess one thing I'm fine with tabling this, but maybe if we do this now, it's there next year. There's no guarantee of what if we want to do it next year.
Right, if we're gonna table it, Mark, that's why I think what we should do is, A, give other board members an opportunity to go over there and take a look at it. B, let's, Jim, see if we can get you and Nathan and Wade over there in the next 2 to 3 days. And get back to me, and I think we should have a special meeting then, with the results of that tour. And then give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, because if we have a good opportunity, then let's take advantage of it right away. No reason to let it sit there. And if we need to, we can always, if you can't be Aaron, we could call in or something like that for the board meeting. Does that sound like a good idea?
I'm good with that.
Table it for tonight, guys?
Okay.
You good with that, Joel?
Yes.
Aaron? Okay, we'll table that, but, Jim, see if you can get Nathan and Wade and yourself over there as soon as possible and get back to me, and we'll try to give the 24-hour notice and have a special board meeting here at some point in time in regards to it.
Okay.
Tom, I think it brings up for me though, something we should talk about as a board is, I mean, Mark, you said this early when we were talking about this. This is maybe a 2 to 3 year thing. I think we do need to start to formulate what are the next steps for us on that building project. And I mean, I have some ideas, but I would love to start hashing that out with the 4 of you and the rest of the team. So, how we move forward.
Okay? Any other comments?
No, I agree 100% with Nick.
All right. Motion to approve open enrollment applications 26-08 and 26-09. Thank you, Aaron. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the policy updates as presented within your packet. I believe it was to our, I just had it on the tip of my tongue, but make sure I rattle the
Fixed
policy.
asset capitalization
Thank you.
policy.
Yep. Fixed asset capitalization policy, and then the instruction and programs for homeless students policy.
So both of these are extreme, did you get a motion already?
Not yet.
So moved.
Thanks, Nick, and second, Mark.
Yeah.
Then we got
Go
it.
ahead, I think
Yeah.
you're gonna answer my questions.
These are very, very minor changes. Lori's change to fixed asset was suggested at a meeting for her to include subscriptions as well as lease. So it's lease and subscription, the highlighted part. And then regarding any questions on that one?
Can you give me an example of like a subscription? Like what would that?
Technology.
Like an online curriculum subscription, you know, like Egg has some
Like
We-
IXL.
IXL,
reading, yeah.
AR, would that be one of them?
Yes,
You know, all of those.
Gotcha.
There's
a lot.
a pretty long list if we really start digging into it. Technology's been increasing for many, many years. And then the other policy, this came out of our title review, which we'll briefly mention during our reports. I specifically put at the end of that policy, refer to the McKinley-Vento dispute resolution policy. It's not an additional policy. Basically, it's the wording that they would like to see in our procedures. And when I first got the information from Natalie Baum, our title teacher / title director, it was way too much fluff, in my opinion, to put in a policy. So I made the decision, I said, we can have this, it's documented in our review, and it will now be a part of our procedures as to this is what we do if there is a dispute. And it wasn't anything terrible, it's just, it was very specific about your child's services will not end during the time that there's a dispute. The services can include that, but it was very, very detailed. That doesn't need to be in our policies, in my opinion. And so it's just a second document that we'll refer to. It will go into our policy manual as a addendum next to it. So it'll be there, but it's basically procedural stuff.
Any questions?
Forgive this question. Those acronyms that are there, the DID and the JF.
You're gonna make us, oh no, those are just letters that are
Okay.
used by
Okay.
that particular program. And some of them I can make up if I want to.
Just
Okay.
our organization.
Yeah.
I just,
It doesn't,
that's what I thought,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to make sure.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion item, superintendent report, Dr. Block.
I don't have a lot, which is good. Title I and Title III review. We had that a week ago today, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was far easier than the last title review that we had, which has been several years. It's not on a cycle like every 5 years or every 10 years. They just come in, I think they're randomly chosen. And so it's been several years. I can't remember the last time we had a review. A lot less restrictive. There just wasn't as much for accountability that we had to have. And they did say that we as a district do receive a fair amount of money, but in comparison to like the Sioux Falls, it's peanuts. And so as long as we're servicing the kids, we've done what we need to. So Natalie's tasked with putting together the documents that prove what we do or show what we do into what's called CRATE. The state reviews it at their offices or wherever they are, and then they come in. They basically were here for about 3-4 hours reviewing Title I stuff and Title III. Title I is basically your math and reading services for students who are not on IEP specifically, and then Title III is for English language learners, EL. And so we do have some EL students. We don't have a lot. Some districts like Milbank probably has almost 100, maybe 100, more than 100 students that are English language learners. We don't even have 5. So it is something we need to address and take care of with those students, but everything seemed fine. They brought up a couple of recommendations, that's why that policy was there. So, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I pretty much covered it all. And they kind of talked about they coming from the state, those that came in to review. One of the focuses that we have to look at a little bit more in the elementary and middle school is the data decision-making process. So teachers are great and everything, and they know their kids pretty well, but yet we have to look like the MAPS testing that we have. And the title does some CBM testing that they do, but we have to, and then the end of the year state testing also. So to kind of look at that testing a little bit more is what they had mentioned.
There can sometimes be conflicts between like the classroom teachers and what they know about their students versus the data. And I think the best way to say it is we need to find a good balance between those two means to really determine where kids are at and what they have for needs. So otherwise, any other questions? The second thing that I have on my list is, you might remember that we have an art trip that is going to Paris, Rome, and London this June. And those people who are participating in that, we have, I believe the last numbers that I've received is we have like 29 people going, 14 students and 15 adults, so it's about half and half. And adults can go on this trip, it's allowable. Actually, probably the more adults, the better, when you're talking about going to a foreign country. But we are going this June. Those folks have been paying for that on a monthly basis for that trip for over a year now, I would say. And in order to get another trip kind of lined up and give people an ample amount of time to pay for the trip or pay forward on the trip, we have to start thinking about another trip. So Candace Bloom, our teacher, brought this to me. The next one they're looking at, that is a suggestion, is going to Japan, and it would be in the summer of 2028, so it'll be 2 years from this coming summer. They would be basically able to pay a little more than 2 years on it. The cost on that's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be about $5,700 per person to go. And so she came with this to me, and I said, I think we need to let the board know that we haven't even gone on this trip to see how this works. It's a legitimate company, people that have done this, and we reviewed that prior to you guys saying yes to this. But I just want you to know that if we truly want to start another program or another option, we probably need to get that going. So sort of a discussion tonight, maybe a blessing in January, or That's what, I put it in just for discussion, so I may ask for an action item to say, yes, we can move forward with this second trip. Perhaps we can discuss that and decide on that in January. And you're welcome to look at the itinerary for Japan. We have not spoken to anybody about any interest, but we could, from now until the January meeting, perhaps maybe have a meeting prior to that, and get an idea of what kind of interest there is. It might fall through and there's not enough interest to go to that particular country, so.
When the board made that decision about the current trip, was there like a minimum number? that you
The
set?
minimum number was 6.
6, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not a very large number to require, or to allow a school to kind of sponsor a trip to go.
We've met with them 2 or 3, I think they came in 2 or 3 times. They did their due diligence in answering our questions. I mean, I felt comfortable when we approved the Europe trip, that everything was done. I don't see why we couldn't make it an action item, you know, here in January at the same time too. Then if there's issues that arise, when is this trip this summer? Is it June?
The one coming up is in June. It's June 8th through the 18th, so it's a 10-day trip.
I mean, realistically, if there's a problem, it would still only be 4 or 5 months in, where we could at least make a decision there.
So we'll put that on as an action item in January.
You guys good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The next thing that I have is the governor's budget address. If you've read any papers or watched any news, you understand that the budget, the proposed budget includes a 0% increase for K-12. It's not the only group that's getting a 0% increase. I think Medicaid and the state workers are 2 other areas of 0%. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball before we get started when it comes to legislative negotiations. And then, of course, negotiations for teachers. I'll just move on to the legislative topics.
I got a question
Okay.
about that one. I'm one of the negotiators this year. How do we go into negotiations? I've looked everywhere for this number. Is there a declining number in the state of South Dakota of students in public schools? It says there's an increase of 216% to private schools, but that doesn't tell me anything because that's a small number.
So
So
then,
why are they proposing?
the number that we are using as educational organizations is 18.8, 18.7 million. I don't know if that number's been verified, but where that number is coming from is there are fewer number of students statewide, and a 0% increase is actually a cut to public education, meaning what the state gave to all of the K-12 schools for this fiscal year is going to be approximately $19 million less for the next fiscal year because there's that many fewer students statewide.
And that's just national, I mean, that's when they talk about, isn't colleges the big problem right now, the drop off with the number of kids that are coming through the programs in the schools?
So in essence, the argument coming from the educational organizations is, wait a minute, this isn't a 0% increase. This is actually saying you're not even giving K-12 education the amount of money that you gave them in the 25-26 fiscal year. You're actually going to be about $18 to $19 million less. And so a 0% increase would be the exact same amount of money given to K-12 in this fiscal year. Does that make sense?
And also the law that was set by them, they are not,
They're not
The
falling.
CPI.
or 3%.
It's CPI or 3%, whichever is less. The 0% is neither of those.
Correct, and I'm having a little problem where they're figuring how they're getting these numbers. Or why they figure they can give us no increase. Actually, you're right, that we're getting a cut in funding, so why? I mean,
It's just the way the budget's playing out, the way they have designed the budget is to say we're giving, I read through an article this weekend, but I don't recall, there was something that he did an increase with. There is also an argument that they're going from 10% fund, or 10% budget reserves
To
is gonna
12%.
now to go to 12.5%
Yeah.
budget reserves. I think that's a budget reserve, not a fund balance. Meaning in the budget, rather than giving 10% going to the reserves, it's gonna be 12.5 in the total budget. So, you know, the priorities at the state level are currently with other things, and those three that I mentioned are getting what they're saying is a 0% increase, but technically it's actually a cut. I mean, talk about the total amount of money they spent on K-12 education in 25-26 is actually $18 to $19 million less next year if this budget passes as it's proposed.
And it's interesting too with this conversation around property tax reform and how does that fact, what are you hearing potentially, how that might affect
So
school
that's,
districts?
yeah, that's part of the funding discussion that we've had this year. There will be legislation for property tax relief. And that's all fine and dandy. My question has always been, okay, if you do that, what plan do you have to replace that? Because if you don't replace it, then obviously there's going to be some significant cuts in many, many programs, not just education, that I don't think we're prepared to accept. So,
If I had a nickel for every time a taxpayer asked me, how much money do you get from the video lottery machines? Well, I'd stick it in there, but I don't get a nickel for that. But, you know, I get asked that question all the time. Where's the video money? I don't know, we don't get it. What do you mean you don't get it? That's how it was sold to us 20 years ago.
originally it was meant to be for education, at least a specific amount. But as I understand it, that's just part of the revenue, the overall revenue that goes in the state budget. It does not specifically go to any particular area, such as education or Medicaid. It's probably just divided, but the state people get concerned.
That only happened a year or two, Joel, I think, when they figured out how much it was, and
Yeah.
no, we're not gonna do that. It's going into general fund.
Sure.
Because it did for a very short time, but not very long.
So other topics that we're going to be looking at is vouchers. And I do have some, I'm not going to give this out yet because this isn't completely finalized, but the Superintendent's Association along with SASD, which is School Administrators of South Dakota, have come up with some talking points that we want to share with our local legislators, share with our educators, share with our community members, to say these are things that we believe in. And one of the things that we believe in is public tax dollars should go to public education, not to voucher systems that could go to private, not to voucher systems that could go to homeschooling, because that's not what it's meant for. Tax dollars are meant for public funding. That's one of the items. We want to make sure that capital outlay rules don't change so that you see some significant concerns with school districts that rely on the ability to shift capital outlay dollars over to general fund. So we've got some points. If you've read anything on Facebook or even on Kettleland, the Sioux Falls School District put together a really nice letter. I don't know if it's their school board collectively that I think put that together. I know that the dual school district has put some things out. I've seen a few other things. So it is my plan to put together some sort of a statement that we send out to our district patrons, we put in our newspaper, basically just encouraging people to support public education and support funding that goes towards education. Contact our legislators, and our legislators, when I say that, in our district, yes, it does include District 1 legislators, but it also includes people who live in Cottington County, Clark County. I don't know if there's any other marshals with us in District 1. So we need to make sure those outlying people who are members of our district and patrons of our district are contacting their legislators, because it's not just District 1 legislators.
On that note, I was gonna kind of respond to Nick on, you know, you wanting to, you know, let's start getting some wheels under, you know, what are we gonna do next? Been talking to different people within the district. I mean, I'm gonna segue here a little bit. You know, the voters spoke, and we listened. And we still have this problem. And I think a fair amount of voters understand the problem, but I think what we need to do as part of the process of getting this going again, and part of the process that you were just talking about, is we need to educate voters. And we need to educate ourselves. When you look at the Webster School District, and you look at the revenue generating acres, the revenue generating buildings, it's shrinking. I mean, the water keeps coming, we keep losing land. Aaron, you can attest to this. I mean, you got land over there that, you know, you're losing land to water all the time. How do we, I don't know if this is a school board task force, if this is a development corporation task force, if it's a joint. I think we need to get somebody on the ball here that can look at our district as a whole and help not only educate us, but educate our voters as to where the dollars, how we get them, how we spend them. You know, like you said, you know, we don't want to open up capital outlay anymore for one reason, to protect the local taxpayers. They need to understand that we're doing everything we can to protect them.
I think, you know, and the other thing I've noticed headlines around lately is those school districts that got in trouble for having too much money, and they're not even getting state dollars. You know, because and why I'm tagging on with that, Joel, is I think one thing we heard from our constituents was, if we're gonna spend $12.5 million, how do we maintain it?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just got me
That's right.
thinking about, okay, do we need to create some sort of capital improvement fund where we're stashing money away then to pay for some of those expenses? Like, we know the track needs to be resurfaced every 10 years. Other things that come up that are routine, so we're planning for that. But I don't want us to get in trouble for having too much money set aside either, when that's a responsible thing to do
Yeah.
with our money. So it's really complicated how it all fits together, and how easily we could get in trouble too.
And then taking off of that, and now I'm jumping back to the 0%, how they've put, you know, these regulations in place where we've got to keep increasing our base, and we've got to make sure our salary stays up
Accountability
here.
for the salaries.
And how do you do that with no increase?
You tax the locals. I mean, that's the,
That's why
If beer doesn't
60%,
fund it.
yeah, 60% of the districts are in opt-outs.
So, yeah, I tell you,
Exactly.
we had a superintendent's meeting in Chamberlain, it's a statewide superintendent's meeting. And we had smaller groups, there were probably about 15 in each group. The last group that I was in, at one point somebody had asked, how many in this group have an opt-out, a current opt-out? I was one of like 3 or 4 out of 15 in our group that did not have an opt-out. I was like, holy cow. There are a lot of districts, you just said 60%, I don't know if that's accurate or where that number comes from, but
Pretty sure that
a lot of districts in South Dakota that have current opt-outs in order to continue to run their schools. One of the things that I have as the last thing is, and then there's a couple of things in parentheses there, the general attack on public education is just unbelievable at the national level and at the state level. There's just this general attack on public education. First and foremost, a lot of those people who are attacking it look at education as a burden to the taxpayers. It is not a burden, folks. It is a necessity. If you want a burden, you get rid of public education and then you find out what you're dealing with society-wise. We are not evil. We are not the problem. We're actually the resource to solve most of society's problems. At least the expectation is there. And when you really get into conversation, folks, public education is a necessity. It's valuable to society. It is not a burden. It exists so that we have good things going on. And I think what we're seeing is and I don't think it's coming from the folks who are homeschooling their kids. We don't criticize homeschoolers. We criticize non-educators or non-homeschoolers, the ones who pull their kids out of school and they're not doing a darn thing. Those are the ones that we criticize. Homeschoolers who are doing a legitimate job are doing a great job. Education, publicly, we're doing a great job. We're not against each other. But the people out there that want to make education a burden, that's what they're doing, is they're pitting us against homeschoolers. They're pitting homeschoolers against us. And that's really not the case. Two things that I have in here, reading, 50%. Most of the biggest critics are going to say, well, 50% of kids can't read. That is not true. Like in our school district, we've got close to 60% of our students who are proficient or advanced. That doesn't mean 40% of our kids can't read. They're just not at the proficient or advanced level. The rest of the kids can read, it's just at a different level. There's no such thing as 50% of your kids can't read. That doesn't exist. All of our students, after probably kindergarten, can read. It's just at what level? Do you see what they do with it, play with the numbers? And then the other thing, that the Smarter Balanced Assessment scores. I don't know if this is valid, but this was shared at our superintendent's meeting. The Smarter Balanced Assessment, which is now no longer being utilized in South Dakota. As of last year, there were 11 states utilizing it. We were either number 1 or number 2 of all of those states in the country for average scores. South Dakota was number 1 or number 2. But that's not what our critics in the legislature are saying. They're saying, oh no, we're terrible at Smarter Balanced Assessment scores. No, we're not. We're one of the best of the states that were using it. I didn't know that until that meeting. So there's a lot of critical information that's just, they're being very, very critical about it. It's not accurate information. And that's what statistics is all about. People will play with the numbers, make it look how they want it to look. But there's a general attack on public education. And we have to battle that on top of a bad budget year. So it's going to be a battle, folks. It is going to be a battle.
It feels to me like it's going to be a different kind of session that way. Like things are kind of coming to a head more than they have before in terms of education.
I'll just share with you an anecdote. I was in court, not in this area, but children weren't attending school. The truancy really isn't an issue anymore, the way the laws are written. The judges don't have power. And in this one case, the parent was upset because the children didn't even know who Osama bin Laden was. They're teenagers. They didn't know who Osama bin Laden was. They didn't go to school. Just don't go to school. Just don't get up, don't go to school in the morning. I know, Mr. Case, you go to pick up kids, you call parents. I'm aware, Dr. Block, of you calling parents and telling people to get their children into the school. I'm aware of our teachers picking up the phone saying, hey, I'll come and get your kids. I think our district does a good job of trying to keep our truancy rates low. Can you imagine that? You're 18 years old, you don't know who Osama bin Laden is? You didn't go to school. That public education absolutely is an important part of our society. And the moment we continue to downgrade public education and we don't take it seriously, there's going to be, as you said, Dr. Block, larger society issues. And that just amazes me. 18 years old. He was born in 6 years after September 11th and never had heard of Osama bin Laden. I can't imagine people that were born in 1947 didn't hear about Pearl Harbor. Just, our society wants to talk about the good old days. Well, then let's focus on getting kids in school.
Dr. Block, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Something I was thinking about too as you were talking, oftentimes I feel like it'd be nice to get students or teachers to come in and talk about what's happening in the classroom and helping connect us more as decision makers with what's happening in the building directly from them. And it just maybe there's a great tie-in here as we're thinking about this attack on public education. If we could use this meeting as a platform to showcase what's happening in our schools, use that camera there to also educate people in our viewing audience at what's happening here. Maybe there's something there. But not that we need longer meetings sometimes, but just to give a 5-10 minute recap of the robotics team that just went to nationals or things like that, and hear directly from them.
It's different means that we need to use, and I will give credit to the Reporter and Farmer. I think they do a great job of coverage. We have a lot of staff members that are posting things on our school Facebook page of things that are going on. And so it's already there.
Yeah.
We just got to figure out how can we do it better than we currently are.
How is the voice from the LAN members that are out in here with the actual legislators? Are they a powerful group? Do they have a strong voice?
I think yes, but there are some times that we lose, even before it gets to committee. Things are decided before they even get to committee. There's things that it gets to committee and then it's done because it's not something a certain particular group wants to see happen, or there's things that they want to push it through and they will, and they'll make sure it gets through committee and then it goes to the House and Senate. I don't follow the political process as much as I should. I'm running a business, or I'm running a school. I don't think that really I should be out in here listening to all of the things that go on. We need our legislators fighting for us. And I really do believe that our legislators do a pretty good job. We don't agree all the time. I think there'll be some interesting things happen with legislation this year. I think they have some battles within, especially the Republican Party. I think there's even some battles within the Republican Party.
Oh, there is.
I don't know how much or what's going on with the Democratic Party, but there's not as many of them, obviously, but yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting stuff.
Okay, anything else, Dr. Block? Thank you, Dr. Block. Mr. Case, principal report.
In the elementary, we have some fun things happening coming up. We have, the theater has had a movie out for the kids the past few years, a Christmas movie. So the kids will be going to the Star, that'll be this Friday. So we use donations from businesses around town, and I've said this many times to a lot of people, our community is awesome. They step forward and support the school and support fun things like this. So yeah, the kids will get a popcorn and a beverage and go see the movie Star. So it's a good thing. January 12th, we have Nick Topman coming in. He was on The Deadliest Catch, the movie. So he's coming in as a motivational speaker. And again, we're using fundraising money for this, that the student councils, both high school student council and the middle school student council are coming together to pay for Nick to come in. He's gonna motivate the kids, hopefully, talk about self-worth, touches on depression a little bit, mental health side of things. You know, kind of gonna rev those kids up because he kind of went through those steps. You know, self-worth, didn't think much of himself and accomplished much in life and is still accomplishing a lot in life, so it'll be good to have him come in January 12th. I wish we could go K through 12, but he just has a particular presentation just for middle school and high school. And we have our Learn to Ski trip coming up. That's for the 8th graders and high school kiddos that want to sign up and come back and ski again. So again, that is fundraising money also that we get through student council and the fundraiser that they just had with this Driven Coffee. They did an excellent job getting out there selling, and we raised $6,400 for that. So good job to the kids and good job to the community for supporting us, and so we can do fun things like this. And yeah, we're still educating the kiddos in school and having a good time and doing good. That's all I have.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Case? Thank you, Mr. Case. NESC.
Nothing new. They meet tonight, so I'm not gonna make it.
Okay. 2026, 2027 initial calendar.
That was provided in your packets. This is draft number 1. I didn't do multiple drafts. Usually when we do, we end up tossing one out early anyway. The differences with this one particularly is rather than starting on a Tuesday of the same week that we did this year, we would be starting on a Thursday. We would do our 2 in-services on Monday and Tuesday and then start on Thursday. And so anytime that you start later and you end later, the only other thing that I put in here was something that's come up just about every year with our staff. They've always had a desire, and I say they as in a good majority of the staff has a desire for us to try to build in the federal holidays. And so I did put, I don't know if I got all of the federal holidays, but I put in the federal holidays where I could. Some of them work out interesting, like in October, we have an in-service on the 9th. That's when we go to Florence. It's the Dare to Share. We really like participating in that. I think it's a great program for our staff to go to. If we have that in-service on that Friday, and then the 12th is Native American Day, it makes a 4-day weekend for students, 3-day weekend for teachers. Now, I'm not doing that to make a 4-day weekend, but it just turns out that way. And then again in February, it would be similar. If we were to do that for parent-teacher conferences, have an in-service on that Friday, and then President's Day is in February, right? Yeah, President's Day, yeah.
Yep.
And so that's what that would do. Now, the only other change that I did to this, and it's not anything against wrestling, we've done this before a couple of times in the 20 years that I've been doing calendars, is we did take the state wrestling off because you would end up having 2 4-day weeks within a row, and 3 days off of school in February alone if we did that. And so the state wrestling is actually a 3-day tournament. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So even taking 1 day off doesn't give them the entire tournament off anyway. We don't take off for state basketball and boys or girls. We'd have to discuss if we ever made it to state. So that's the major changes. Still not getting out very late with starting 2 days later and adding in federal holidays. You're still looking at the original last day of school would be the 18th, and then having makeup days thereafter. So I will tell you this, that this particular calendar, which I sent out to staff last Wednesday or Thursday, not a tremendous amount of responses, but the responses that I did get verbally, personally, and via email was they really like this. The only other suggestion that was made is what other schools are doing is to perhaps have teachers come back for 1 day right after the January break for an in-service, get prepared for the next semester, get prepared the next day, so students wouldn't come. That's maybe something we could consider, but that would be on January 4th, which would move us to the 19th. I didn't think that was a bad idea. Apparently there's a handful of schools in our area that do that, and their staff likes it. Just adds an additional day for the students. It's not an action item, it's a draft. I'll continue to get comments, suggestions, and things like that.
So the way this is scheduled, we'd go to school on Thursday, Friday, and then it'd be 2 full weeks before Labor Day.
We'd have the 4th off, so you'd have a full week.
Yeah.
Plus a 4-day week before we get a break. And generally we take the 4th off because that's, it doesn't help greatly, but it helps. That is the final day of that particular week, which is the State Fair week. That came up as a suggestion, 15 years ago, and we've kept it in ever since. And it was a suggestion both by staff members and parents, specifically probably parents of students who participated at the state fair. It's just one less day for kids to have to make up work.
This is a newbie question. What does the state require for instructional days for us?
It's not days, it's
Per
962.5 hours for grades 5 through 12.
Okay.
And then it's a little less than that's 860 some, 90 some, for kids K through 3 or K through 4. We have historically had a 180-day teacher contract. I mean, I've been here, this is my 25th year, and it's been that many. So I don't know if that was created in 1960s or 1970s or when it was, but we have a 180-day teacher contract. And that includes 7 in-service days, 2 before school starts, 5 during this calendar, and then 2 parent-teacher conferences, along with 171 school days. If you look at the chart down at the bottom left,
Yeah.
that breaks down how we get 180 contract days.
I thought the calendar looked good. All right, any other comments on the calendar? Buildings and ground.
If you drive by, you can see that our 1950s facility is in demolition or just about demolished. They basically taken down the majority of the facility. They're doing a little bit more work down in the bottom part of the old high school gym in that basement area. There's still a little bit of work to be done on the north wall of the precast. I would guess, and Joel, you can probably add in if you want. We're at a point where they're doing a little bit more of the selective demolition, where you're right up against the wall. That's going to be the new exterior wall on the north side, as well as the new exterior wall on the west side. I did get the quotes from JDH, and the original quote for that east wall with the boiler room, replacing it, was around $32,000. It's still in that $32,000 range. Lori, did I print those or give those to you? It's still in the $32,000 range. And then the quote for the double doors coming out of the new boiler room area that's going to be filled in, and then taking out the other door that goes from the utility room into the new pump room, I believe that was around $7,000. That was a suggestion that I had made, just so that we can pallet material around with our pallet jacks in the building. Otherwise, they'd come in the building and then we'd have to remove them off pallets in order to get them out of the boiler room. So it's more of a long-term custodial management, materials and supplies management throughout the building.
Any questions on the,
We have a meeting tomorrow at 11. Is it? No, I don't know what time it is. I have it in my calendar, but we have a meeting tomorrow morning. We'll find out some things there.
At the last one, we talked about the piping in the gym.
Yes, they have not insulated the pipe in the gym, and so the gym is, especially tonight with a full crowd in there, it is hot. The pipes that are generating the heat, they go to the middle school, and part of this high school building, they're not insulated yet, so that's generating extra heat in the gymnasium. And so eventually they'll be insulated. It'll be my suggestion tomorrow that, I believe it's Redlinger Brothers that will do that installation, or they subcontract somebody to do it, is that they do that over Christmas break. There'll still be some practices and things that go on in there, but they'll have a little more freedom to get that done. We especially want it done before cooling season in April. Otherwise, we're going to be fighting a battle we will not win in the gymnasium, at least for heat and cooling.
okay, any other questions, comments, buildings and grounds? All right, motion to move into executive session for personnel.
So
Thank you, Mark, second.
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion, all in favor say aye.